Okay, so you are 41 weeks pregnant today, and at this point in pregnancy, we do increase monitoring, and that's because the further you get away from, the further out you get from your due date, the more certain risks increase, including the risk of stillbirth. So we just want to check in more frequently, and you know, use some other tools that help us assess your pregnancy and make sure that it's continuing along a healthy path and that you continue to be a good candidate for out-of-hospital birth. So the test that I want to talk to you about today and offer you today is called an auscultated acceleration test, or an AAT. And what that is, it's very similar to a non-stress test, which would be the hospital-based practice standard, where we look at baby's heart rate and compare it to their movements to make sure that to kind of see that the placenta is doing its job of oxygenating the baby well, so that they can continue to do what they need to do in the womb. It's like the midwife's low-tech version of that non-stress test. So what it looks like is for 2 minutes at the beginning, I would listen to the baby with a Doppler and get their baseline heart rate. We're expecting that to be in the range of 120 to 160. And then if it is, then we'd continue on with the test, where we'd listen to baby for 3 more minutes. And meanwhile, I will be calling out the heart rate that I get in 5-second increments, while my assistant marks it down on a graph. And I also want you to tell my assistant any time that you feel the baby move during those 3 minutes. And she'll mark that down on the graph as well. If after 3 minutes there's no fetal movement or there's no acceleration, then we'd pause the test. I'd use my hands to gently shake the baby, move them around, see if we can wake them up a bit, and we'd listen in the same fashion for 2 more minutes, or excuse me, for 1 more minute. And after that minute, if there was still no acceleration or fetal movement, we'd pause again. I gently jostle the baby, try to stir them up and get them to move, and we do the same test for 2 more minutes. That would be a total of 6 minutes. And after that last 2-minute segment, if there was still no acceleration or fetal movement, then the next step would be to refer out for a non-stress test, and possibly a biophysical profile, which is a in-depth ultrasound that looks at fetal well-being. So some of the pros to this test are that it is simple. It's done in office. You don't have to go anywhere else, and we can get some pretty good information from it. Another pro is that it is a very good predictor of poor outcomes, meaning that if you were to get a non-reactive result from this test, we can feel pretty confident that there is something going on with the baby or the placenta. Something's going on and baby's not getting what they need, and the appropriate next step is to see a higher level provider. Some of the cons for this test are that higher level providers don't view it as a valid way to monitor a pregnancy. So they're not going to take these results and use this data. They would want to perform their own test, which would be a non-stress test, to get their own data. Another con for this test is that it does have a high false positive rate. And what that means is that you could get a reactive test today that your baby passed the test, or your pregnancy, it's reactive. The test is reactive. But something may have slipped by. The test might not have picked everything up, so you could still continue on and get a poor outcome. Yeah, do you have any questions at this point about the AAT? No? Do you feel comfortable continuing on and doing an AAT today? Okay. All right, so I got the client's consent. I've gathered my supplies. I have a graph. I have my watch. I've got a Doppler and a pen. I'm going to get the client into a semi-Fowler's position, or a reclined position, but slightly tilted to the left to get the pressure of the uterus off the aorta. And once she is settled in and in the correct position, I'm going to listen for 2 minutes to get the baseline heart rate, which in this case was 130. I'm going to say we already did that. We got the baseline of 130. And then my partner is going to be listening for the rates I call out every other 5 seconds, and jotting, making a dot on the chart at the appropriate time period, and then also putting arrows where there is fetal movement. Okay, I am going to get my audio going, and I'm going to, I think you can kind of see what I'm doing over here. Okay. And so I'd give the instructions she's going to say whenever the baby moves. All right. 13. 12. 13. 13. 12. 13. 13. 12. 13. 12. 13. 13. 13. 12. 13. 13. 12. 13. Okay. So after that segment of time, there's clearly no acceleration. We stayed right around 120, 130, and there's no fetal movement. So we'd pause, and I'd shake the baby. I'd write an S, Actually, my assistant would be doing all this writing in reality. And we'd start again. Here we go. Thirteen. 12. 12. 13. 12. 13. So that was one more minute, and no acceleration or movement there either. So we'd pause, adjust or wiggle the baby, and then we'd continue on for 2. I'm going to mark S for shake, and we continue on. 12. 13. 12. 13. 13. 13. 13. 12. 13. 13. 13. 12. Oops, I didn't say it, but it was 12. All right. So, again, I was being everything there. In reality, I would have just been counting and reporting, and my assistant would be jotting this down. So with this would be a non-reactive test. There was no fetal movement, and the heart rate stayed right between 120s and 130s the whole way. There's no accelerations. There's also no decels, but I would then advise my client that the appropriate next step would be to get some more information. And so we'd refer out for a non-stress test or and also possibly a biophysical profile. And that's that.